Good morning, welcome back. We are into the discussion bit of New Day Kenya here on the program, and thank you for keeping us company here on the program. The number is 0791 478 990. The hashtag on Twitter is New Day KE. The short SMS code is 40920. We are taking stock of the developments in the country in regard to what happened in Mombasa County on Saturday over the weekend, where the BBI convoy or the proponents headed there. And for that discussion, though, we are joined by Benji Ndolo, senior political commentator, analyst on affairs in the country. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother. Imagine, yeah, I know you've been busy. How was your weekend?
Not bad. Good.
I love the bow tie.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm in black as well.
Black
for
Day.
Kobe Bryant, yes.
Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
What a legend.
What a legend, yeah.
He
unbelievable.
Yes. Millions have watched him as they grew up in the United States of America.
Yes.
And
I'm one of those.
Was perhaps the point with which they sourced inspiration.
Yes.
But all the same, and nonetheless, and he was, of course, a legend of the game.
Absolutely.
Who was celebrated across the globe.
And of humanity.
Yep. And he, of course, his death, or rather sudden demise, is a blow to the MBA fraternity across the world.
Indeed.
Laichena Mugambi is the advocate of the High Court and commentates on analyst matters that pertain in the country, that pertain developments, politics and governance, and we are taking stock of that. Before we get to the nitty-gritty details, let's first of all hear what some of the leaders had to say in Mombasa County over the weekend on Saturday amid support for the referendum, and this is what Kipchumba Oliver Murkomens had to say when he stood up to speak at the podium in Tononoka Grounds, Mombasa County.
Sisi tumefurahi leo kwa sababu ya kwanza, leo kwa pwani itakumbukwa kwa historia ya Kenya kwamba katika safari ya BBI tumeweza kuzika ile uhasama ya kusema us versus them, and Kenya will work together without any sides in this Republic of Kenya. Hakuna kitu itazuia Kenya kuwa na prime minister, deputy prime minister na viongozi wote, na lazima tuende referendum ndio Wakenya wajipatie viongozi ambao wanataka kuwaunganisha pamoja.
Asante. Na hiyo ndiyo itasaidia nchi yetu. Tunataka uhaki wakati wa kura, ili Wakenya wasiharibu mali wala kupoteza maisha. Iko ndani ya BBI.
The blood is always under. Okay, thank you so much. We had an off-mic discussion, and Laichena Mugambi joins us here on the program. And thank you, gentlemen. I do appreciate your time. Benji, coming to you first. Taking stock of what happened in Mombasa County, there seemed to be a sense of a common language here when it comes to the BBI and the inevitable nature or the imminent referendum calls in the country. This comes amid deep skepticism in regard to Kenyans who are concerned about the economy and not on the political developments in the country. How do we strike this balance, in particular in terms of wanting out a common outcome for the benefit of the common man?
I looked at snippets of BBI Mombasa Live. The theme that came out, and I talked about this on social media and got a lot of responses. It's very clear when you look at what's happening that the level of political discourse in Kenya is very, very, very low. It's very down. Iko down sana. You look at all the speeches, the intent, the performance there. What came out there? Braggadocio, lyrics of songs. I think Raila said, we're iron like a lion in Zion. Okay, you can't stop reggae. We are at a bad place as a country as far as leadership. Young people are at pains to find inspirational leadership anymore. Leadership that makes you take a pause from whatever you're doing and say, wait a minute, what is Martin Luther King Jr. saying? Wait a minute, who is this young guy, Barack Obama? We don't have that. So you had a lot of dancing, a lot of repetition of the same things, a lot of blackmail, a lot of drama, a lot of undercurrents. So you saw the whole situation with Moses Kuria. You know, they denied him a seat because apparently when Baba walked in, Raila walked in, he didn't stand up. Number two, he didn't call him Baba. You know, that kind. And that's where the political culture and position in this country is. You listen to Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka. You listened to Raila himself. You listened to even your own Honorable Farah Maalim. I don't think anyone can remember any particular thing from BBI Mombasa. And That's the first thing that strikes you, Ayub. The second thing is, the unfortunate part about BBI is it's like it has a predetermined outcome.
Okay.
So this is a state project that must go through come what may. So they're just going through the motions. You've written the report, or there's another report. The funding is not clear. So you have to be seen to do public participation. So you just go. So it's like they're just going through the motions. And once again, you've got all these poor people standing in the sun in Mombasa, chanting, dancing, jumping up and down. And then you've got the leaders that are also spending all this money in billions, and proposals by governors to have another tier of government. So no shame whatsoever, a perpetuation of the conspiracy to loot the poor. And so my question is then, how would all this solve the bread and butter issues of Wananchi? You've got now, I've seen in the last week, a lot of smart, eloquent, young students who have, I saw a girl who was number 1 saying she doesn't have school fees for Form 1. I saw Honorable Waziri, Education Minister, Magoha, in Kibra, going door to door, flashing people out of their houses to go to school by force because the government is... how will this sort out these kinds of issues? So that's the unfortunate part. I'm not just sitting here to bash, but we're at a bad place in political leadership in this country. Totally terrible.
All right, so Wakili, clearly from what Benji says, and really it's not from what he says because it's technically what we all saw, and we could not pinpoint notable ways that were presented on how we could face off the problems of the people of Kenya. But one notable thing that we can actually carry from that particular rally is that there was so much praise, and it sounded as though it was more of a Baba affair, coming from people who've been, sort of opposing him for the longest of time. And while this looked like a political score for Murkomens, I mean, how then can we sort of go down and sit down and gauge this in regards to the fact that at some point in time they've argued that they are politicizing this, Baba is making this like an outfit for him to be able to garner some points in 2022. But the very same figures came on board again, and there was so much praise showered on him. How can we sort of try and turn and twist this conversation for the remaining time to a point whereby it can twist to a point where it can address the issues of Kenya, as opposed to going there to shower praise on individuals, going there to address issues that are not pertinent for the sake of the people of Kenya?
Oh, thank you, Linda and Ayub. Now, yesterday I got an opportunity to listen to Raila when he had an exclusive interview at the NTV. I was so much interested in that because one thing came out very clear. As long as these people are saying the BBI is for the common Wananchi and nothing is going to stop it, I differ. I stand to differ that BBI is meant to be for the common Wananchi because clearly you could tell how the BBI came about. You know very well that we've been struggling economically, despite the fact that our leaders are telling us that the country is economically strong. And last year, you see everyone was complaining. Come this year, we were expecting after the handshake, actually not even this year, we expected last year after the handshake, which of course was exclusively between Raila and Ruto, and Uhuru, we expected a change in the economics. But it is unfortunate that immediately we got to the year 2020, thinking that things are going to change on the ground, we get to politics immediately, right? So we saw the praises and all the things that were happening because, of course, if you went to the podium and you did not recognize Baba, it's like you had no chance to speak even at that rally. And that's the reason why, Murkomens is a bright guy. He's a trained lawyer despite being a politician. And you read the mood. The moment you read the mood and what people want to hear, that is what you say, so that you finish it and go. BBI was brought about by the handshake. That is Raila and Uhuru. And he clearly explained what was the purpose of BBI. Of course, He talked about rectifying the constitution in what didn't impress him during that period when they went to Naivasha and they did 1, 2, 3 things. He was not impressed about it. And now he says BBI is coming to correct. Well, we in as much as we want the referendum to change this constitution, but I think the way we are doing it currently, we are spending so much of taxpayers' money. Unfortunately, the former Prime Minister yesterday said that, oh, this is propaganda.
Okay.
There is no public money being used. He denied that there is money because he just rubbished it off and said, it's only the mic. Actually, he said it clearly that it's only the mic and I think the public address. And where are you getting these figures of 10 million being used? And they denied that there is money being used, but we know very well that they talked of a budget, they talked of money, and there is no way you would hold such rallies, which we are told that it's a project of the government, even if it is being run by Raila, that there is no money being used. But unfortunately, there is. And it's all about the praise. It's all about, I won't lie to you, it's all about 2022.
Okay.
All right. Ayub, allow me to ask this simple question again in regards to what, of course, Wakili has said. And you say, yes, in as much as we. When you say we, whom are you referring to? Is it sort of a picture that is painting a picture of the common Mwananchi, the Kenyans and all that? Yes, we could be in dire need of a referendum or changes within the constitution that would be necessary because we've realized loopholes. And when you look at, of course, the different public forums that have been conducted, 3 so far and more yet to be conducted, a clear indication that maybe if there was some level of resentment or a sort of resistance from the people of Kenya, we would have witnessed at an early stage. Do you suppose then that Kenyans are slowly by slowly welcoming this?
When I talk of we, I mean us.
Yes.
The common Mwananchi on
So
this
have
other,
they
on this
received
other
this
side,
well? Yes.
Right? We have no choice.
Okay.
You see, it's all about these rallies. They are now being carried by the key politicians who are now joining every day. And the reason why I'm saying we have no choice is because if you look at those rallies, the people who attend those rallies, most of them have nothing to do. Most of them are jobless, right? They come to fuel the crowd. Most of them are ferried because they are given something small and they're put in the buses and they are ferried to those grounds. The reason why I'm saying we have no choice is because there is nothing we can do about it, because this is a project that the government has said whether we like it or not, it has to go on. So what are we going to do? Is to accept it. We have nothing to do. We have to listen to them. Even if, by the way, if I may put it, yesterday, I mean, this weekend rally, Saturday's rally
Mombasa.
in Mombasa was a little bit different from the others, because at least they articulated a few issues that we wanted to hear, other than pure politics like we have seen in the other 2. Yeah? So we are interested to know where we are ending to. We don't know what is the end. We know what has been the beginning.
All right.
Because we've been told rallies will be here this week, next week, up to I think 28th of, around sometimes in March.
Yeah.
We don't know at the end what we are going to achieve from it. Because from my understanding, the committee that was gazetted is still doing their job, collecting views and getting a few. Because I heard Raila say that before any rally, a memorandum has been drawn and has started between those people, and it has to be read to the people for them to accept or for them to pass it. But unfortunately, there is no way you can tell me that that crowd in a rally can be able to say, yes, we agree to this point 1, 2,
Kenyans have no choice with that point,
Kenyans
in as
no
much
choice.
as
They are
maybe
just
it's
being told,
enshrined
we
in the
listen,
Constitution,
and we have
that
no
we have
choice.
the ultimate.
We're not being given a chance to respond.
Sadly.
Okay, all right, let's get to hear from what the ODM leader Raila Odinga said over the weekend when he attended and spearheaded the BBI rally in the port city of Mombasa County.
Naleta salam kutoka kwa Rais Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Mnapokea? Mnapokea? Tuliamua ya kwamba hii mkutano wa 3 ifike Mombasa. Manake Mombasa ndio mlango wa Kenya. Wapwani wameongea juu ya mambo ya mashamba, mambo ya ardhi. Manake wanasema sio tu mambo ya kupeana title deed pale shamba ambayo wewe unakuwa nalima kila siku. Hii haisaidii wewe. Shida ya shamba pwani ni kubwa kushinda haya. Unaangia ati iko landlord sangine, mtu anakuja anatoka kule Arabuni. Ati yeye ni mtukuu wasijina ni bin nani ambaye alikuwa amechukua hiyo ardhi. Hii mpaka tupate tusuluhu. Maana yake hapa pwani ndio tuko na bahari. Na hii bahari iko na rasilimali mingi zaidi ambayo watu wetu wafukara, lakini tuko naye hapa. Tutumie mbinu na ujuzi ili watu wa pwani wasiwe maskini. Mimi na Uhuru tuliketi chini baada ya watu wetu wengi kupata shida. Vijana wetu wengi walikufa. Si mnajua namna hiyo? Si nyinyi wenyewe ndio mlisema ati wakipiga wakihesabu, wakijumlisha, wakirusha, wakitangaza, wakiiba, tunawashika. Sasa hapa hii mkono wa bandari hii ya Likoni, pale tuko hapa sasa, hii Kilindini imeua watu wengi zaidi. Juzi ilipeleka mama na mtoto, watu wakiangalia namna hii. Simuliona hiyo? Mbona hiyo? Mpaka tupate suluhu ya kudumu. Nikiwa waziri wa barabara na ujenzi, nilichora mambo ya daraja hapa. Nataka tujenge daraja ya kuvuka, na ile daraja ya chini ya maji inaitwa tunnel kutoka hapa mpaka pande ile.
Okay, that's Raila Odinga speaking, the ODM leader. Benji, if I may come to you, he and the president will be in Washington in February, and they will be part of the prayer that will be happening, prayer day in the United States of America. But besides that, there is still a part and parcel of a political class that has shown a lust for power, the creation of positions, and an ending appetite in regards to not wanting to push the country out of the depths of despair to the great heights of hope. Can the BBI, perhaps this coming together, the political truce, be the chapter with which Kenyans will have mature, responsible, and wise leadership beyond 2022?
The simple answer is no.
How?
Same forest, same monkeys.
No difference?
No. There's no way you can have solutions coming from the leaders who have led us into the pit that we're in as a whole. I'm looking at a story here on the Sunday Nation.
About hospitals?
Page 12. About hospitals, the way private hospitals like this, Nairobi Women's, are just now stock market trading floors where they're having communications with each other saying, you know, even if Linda only has a headache, make sure you admit her because they're chasing money. I'm seeing a story on page 12. Calvin Burgess, a big-time investor who wanted to do the biggest rice farm in Africa, in the Yala Swamp. And he's made these allegations severally, bitterly complaining that the Odinga family was asking him for millions and millions of shillings in extortion in the name of this is an ODM zone. So he's just sold that company now to the Rai family. You cannot. These are the guys who have gotten us into the situation of bad governance, poverty, and unemployment. How are they going to get us out of it? I'm hearing on this clip Honorable Raila talking about land issues and the fact that people don't have title deeds and many others have huge chunks of land. So who is he talking about?
Absentee landowners.
He's talking about the Kenyatta family. So what BBI is that? You're telling me he's going with Uhuru to Washington, D.C. I'm sure you saw something that trended last night,
yes.
Honorable Miguna's interview. And Miguna is like, look, I saw in Raila, I'm banned from Kenya, and Raila is eating with Uhuru.
It's unfortunate.
What kind of madness is this? So, not to paint a very bleak picture, but, you know, on a broadcast, we cannot come here and sing lullabies and tell stories. So it's not that we want to be too pessimistic, but honestly speaking, we've got very serious challenges. Extreme poverty, youth unemployment, no housing, no infrastructure, collapsing infrastructure, extreme corruption in the counties, corruption and wastage in the national government. Do you honestly think that BBI somehow crafted by men, one of who says that the other robbed his presidency, and so they have a temporary truce? I mean, Wakili, I don't know how you see it.
No, Wakili says that Kenyans really have no choice but to adopt this, accept this? Have we been reduced to that level where
Isn't
we
that
even
blackmail?
overlook the essence, I mean the Constitution?
We have a constitution here that Ayub is
In fact,
flipping
it's
through.
coming
gives
to
us
it. The social
yes,
content.
And it has
everything.
It was designed around all these social
The
principles.
9-point agenda, the Bill of Rights.
All these things are in the
Actually,
Constitution. So first of all, if you cannot respect the Constitution, if you cannot respect court orders, if the President and the Chief Justice are literally at war in public, so what hope does that give a first year at University of Nairobi who's watching all this? I mean, this is serious stuff. It's unfortunate, but it's on us to also keep doing what we do to be the moral voice for this nation, because where are we honestly headed? Politicians are just trying to survive and create positions. And like I said, governors now who have nowhere to go and still want to continue enjoying the gravy train and the power, etc., are now thinking of creating something else. If that isn't unbelievable, if that doesn't wake Kenyans up, I don't know what can. That's unbelievable.
What makes them, in this particular regard then, in terms of the point with which you went to source out the honest assessment, what's making the government support this particular cause or rally in the essence? Running away from the corruption? Because, again, when you listen to the report or read through the reports by the Senate Accounts Committee chaired by Moses Kajwang, who is the Homa Bay Senator, 80% of the current and former governors will end up in jail. Are they hiding behind Odinga and Kenyatta?
And that's precisely what I was coming to is, you see, our politics is lacking in morality and principle. So a lot of these governors have very dirty hands. And they are facing prosecution. They are gullible. They look at Evans Kidero, who spends 80% of his time in courts, going from one court to another, accused of grand corruption, accused of theft, accused of malfeasance. So they look at this and they figure that the politics that they can do usually is politics of patronage, politics of special interest, politics of self-serving interest, and that if, rather than go for what is right, if you just hide and toe the line, then you will be able to not stand out, and you'll be able to get the political cover from the kingpins, so to speak, and then you can survive. So once again, there's nothing in it for Mwananchi, there's nothing in it for the voter. And I'll tell you this, Ayub, why the leaders feel entitled to do this, Wakili, is because, in a sense, they feel that they buy these positions. And this is a problem with our political system in Kenya, is once someone is looting money and, in essence, buying a seat. It's like when you buy your car, and now you know, this is my car.
It's yours.
I'm just gonna use it the way I want. I'm going to carry maize in it, whether it's a Mercedes or a Land Cruiser, the way I want. And so this explains the psychology of the thinking, is that a lot of these people are bribing a lot, the electorate. They go around, they spend millions and millions, and they just silently feel like, look, I bought the seat, leave me alone, okay? And I'm just going to do what I like. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
But still on that very same point, allow me to ask this very question, because we might, so castigate and point fingers, but equally, the underlying factor is that as a people, you know, historically, we've come from a situation where, of course, it's been very tough in the country, especially when you look at it on the lenses of politics. And at some point in time, one then would argue that there was need for us to have total redemption, for us to have that aspect where we can go back to the drawing board and you say, how do we then craft our very own peace and unity as a people of Kenya? Of course, not forgetting the 2007, 2008 post-election violence. And this coming together of course, the key figures, and now the likes of course, Tanga changing tone and officially sort of supporting the BBI sounds, or maybe has been labeled as something that sort of would be good enough to craft the essence of peace in the country. So in as much as we would say that, yes, this is for the interest of the leaders to create their own positions or their own interests, don't you think also that this would be a game changer and a step towards the right direction, especially when you look at the 9-point agenda that Ayub was talking about, and a key figure or a key thing captured on it is the question of electoral injustice?
Thank you, Linda. But I would personally tell you that with these leaders that you've seen here, they are the same we've been having since 1970s. Raila has been to this since 1970s. So what is it that is now going to do different in 2020? Okay. They want to tell the common Mwananchi that BBI is the solution to all your problems. It is not. And I can openly tell you it is not. last time here we talked about so many reports that we've been having, the TJRC, we've been talking about several others that they've been discussed. They have so beautiful things that if they were implemented, Kenyans today we will be very, very in a step further than where we are. But nothing has happened since then, right? Some of them are still like TJRC report is still, there's nothing that has been done in Parliament. So this BBI is not bringing anything new. Right? It's not bringing anything new. The reason being, there are so many people in the rural areas and even in these towns who do not even understand what BBI is. I think one day just take some and they make up the
land. But don't you think it touches on fundamental units of the current constitution that have not been addressed, have not been implemented, and maybe sort of suffer a lot of sort of rejection, and also in regards to how we can get to implement it, and maybe that's the reason why they saw it necessary for us to just try and craft a tighter ways of ensuring that we are able to implement them.
How are we going to ensure that we implement them? Tighter in what way? Because I can tell you, the BBI is actually recommending so many nice things, so many beautiful things, that because our 2010 constitution is not actually very perfect, if I may say so, because it was crafted very fast, and of course there was a purpose for that. We also need to be very careful when we are looking at the BBI, what is contained in that report that we are going to amend the constitution. How are we going to implement it to ensure that the common mwananchi is benefiting from this constitution? The reason why I'm saying this is because, as I have said again, so many people don't understand what the BBI is. They don't even know what is happening.
Okay, Wakili, so many people are those who make a lion's share of the percentage.
They make
we'll come to the literacy levels and why the BBI seems to be. I'll just pause you. Let's pick this call from our panel at home with John calling us from Bungoma County. Good morning, John. Bushere, habari asubuhi.
Ni safi sana huku, ninaona manyunyu na baridi huku Bungoma. Ni safi sana bwana.
All right.
Mvua ni baraka.
Wacha niseme namna hivi.
Okay.
Kwanza kabisa nataka kuwashukuru viongozi wetu wa Western. Bwana Bodabadi, bwana Kawale, wote viongozi wa Western walionyesha demokrasia wakati wa BBI Western. Walionyesha demokrasia ya hali ya juu sana.
Okay.
I have to say congratulations. Hebu angalia hii BBI vile ilifanyika Nyanza, alafu vile tumeona sehemu za Mombasa, ni tofauti kabisa na vile ilifanyika Western. Kuonyesha watu wa Western tunaelewa, tunajua na tunadumisha democracy. Congratulations of our leaders.
Okay.
Wacha niseme namna hivi bwana Abudi. Swala la mashamba, naona baba hapo akilalamika. Swala la mashamba ni everywhere. Hata huko Western ni mambo ya mashamba ni ngumu kabisa. Na ningependa kucall upon government iangalie mbinu mpya ya kusuluhisha matatizo ya mashamba. Kwa maana watu wengi wanaishi katika mashamba yao na hawana title deeds kama masikwata na ni katika nchi yao.
Okay.
Nimesikitisha sana na hilo jambo, na ningependa kuita serikali itafute mbinu mpya ya kusuluhisha na kupatia watu title deeds na watu waweze kuishi katika nchi yao kwa mashamba yao, katika wakijisikia wako katika nchi yao. Kule tu watu wanaishi kama squatter.
All right.
Thank you.
Asante sana John, always the resident panel from home calling us from Bungoma County. Thank you so much. We appreciate your contribution here on the program. Yes, Wakili, you had a point.
Continue. Yes, you've just heard even the caller.
Yes.
Is called John. Right now he's also talking about the issue of land and the issue of democracy. If you listen to what Raila said, he said, sasa tutapata suluhu. Unakumbuka tulisema wakihesabu, tunahesabu. Right? You should be able, if you listen to him, you can tell what is the root cause of this BBI and where we heading to.
Okay.
Because I can tell you for sure that BBI, the handshake is what brought about the BBI. And the handshake was brought about by the fact that Raila believes he wants the votes, so he ought to be the president. And because I ought to be the president, because he has even talked about people died.
Right.
When did they die?
That's in the midst of the BBI
yes,
process. He
yes.
still feels he's the victor.
He still feels he's the victim.
And also made the victim.
That's the truth.
And he equally talked about the killings of the supporters, which was equally captured in the human rights report.
Why did people
So
die?
do you mean that there seems to be the lack of honesty, isn't it? That
There's no honesty in this BBI, but it is coming out.
Okay.
If you're able to look at it keenly, it is coming out. Because they had to meet, according to him, they had to meet. He denied actually that he never talked to Ruto or anything.
But Ruto said he approached him 3 times.
Ruto had said that he approached him. But he says he had no business to do with Ruto. He only spoke with the president, and they exclusively met privately, which is very true, they met privately. And what was discussed, because according to him, he still believed he was the president. He only accepted Uhuru to be the president after the handshake. And that's why he says now, that is when he took an oath in Uhuru Park, where he was sworn in as the people's president. And he says it is after that, it is after the handshake that he accepted Uhuru to be the president, right? Yeah. So he believes that he's at the same level with the president, not even Ruto or anyone. So he believes he is at the same level. And they had to look for something to ensure that Raila remains relevant and he is satisfied that he's relevant. So it's not about you, Linda. It's not about me. It's not about you.
Given that, before Linda comes in, Wakili, let me just pause you, because I want to seek specificity here. When you talk about that issue, it's a matter of broad term here, because it speaks a lot to the essence of the expansive nature of how this has an impact politically. Is that the ODM party, Raila's party, says DP William Ruto as unelectable, and they accuse him of corruption scandals, and they say there's need for him to resign. He seems to be overshadowing the president. But again, ever since the handshake, this is a building bridging moment, which is meant to end, to glue the two ends of the political river in this case. But they seem to be having hard time in terms of building that bridge over the troubled waters. And this includes the DP William Ruto, who the ODM and acknowledges and is overlooking. What's the point then of having the BBI if we seem to be playing such political games in the spectrum?
You are very right, Ayub. First of all, when we talk about building bridges, you don't build with your friends only, okay? You build bridges so that you bring Benji, you bring Ayub in, you bring the other person in, regardless of whether you feel like you respect them or not, all right? But right now, what they are trying to show us is that the BBI, it's not even an issue of building bridges at all. It's an issue of them going to that promised land that Raila has always been telling us that we are going to the promised land, all right? It is not about bringing up the people together.
Do you want to mean, Wakili, that then, of course, when we're saying we're building bridges, and probably to Ayub also, then we should overlook the flaws of a certain, sort of majority, or maybe a certain person. So in the event that there's something that is wrong, it should not be pinpointed simply because we're trying to build bridges. It should not be looked at, we should not sort of seal the loopholes that are within just because we're trying to build the bridges.
Bring those people together.
How?
If you don't like like for example, if I'm not comfortable with
for fairness, I want to believe that it has been an open process, and the president has said so. Equally, of course, Right Honorable Raila Odinga has said so, and all the members of the BBI, task force have said that it should be an open process, welcoming every other Kenyan into it. Just that, of course, there's a certain group that has felt like they are being witch hunt. They have felt like it's not a clear process, so they have decided to segment themselves. How then do we say that this is not a move towards building the bridges, or maybe ensuring that people are united?
But there is open ridicule against the deputy president.
And equally open ridicule against the other side.
So who is Raila Odinga?
So who is who?
Because the Tanga faction has been making fun of the BBI, saying it's a blue band initiative.
Yes.
More or less, it's a case, isn't it, that there is no assurance and guarantee, Benji, coming to you, that for purposes of posterity, to end the political perpetual continuity of violence, the uncertain times of every electoral cycle, and it seems the current political temperatures are perhaps a prophecy, or if you look at it, a recipe for political uncertainty in 2022, because no commitment means then that we are unlikely going to be having a fair, free process that's acceptable to all sides. And then the fact is, my Kenyans' concern is that in this whole discussion, we seem to be overlooking the classical refereeing dilemma of the IEBC, which failed to be a very fair umpire in the past elections, and that again is politicized.
I've said it here before. The problem with the political conflict in this country is not an abstract problem. It's not an unpredictable problem. How are you not going to have conflict when your politics is built around ethnic mobilization, so that the country is divided up into ethnic groups which are then amalgamated, one team against another? And so if you notice, if you look at social media the last couple of days, it is increasingly clear that the central part of Kenya, which is where the president hails from,
yes,
are continually and progressively crystallizing into a very solid base for the deputy president. So that then now this base and his other base will then be in conflict with the other person's base. And these coalitions are basically ethnic censors, a certain community, certain region. And you saw that even with the BBI in Mombasa, where they were saying certain people are not welcome here. Well, that's ridiculous, because you have to go to other parts of the country as well. You saw some of that also in Kakamega, that level of intolerance and talking about Western is Waluya and we need all Waluyas in one basket. Until we change this kind of politics, we cannot expect to plant sisal seeds and to harvest bananas, which we ate here last Monday. It's not possible.
All right, we're taking a breather, but then of course the question
not
we're coming
possible.
back with is the parliamentary system, of course, a way of sort of trying to solve this. Because when you look at, historically across the African continent, a majority of countries that have gone the presidential system sort of have had issues within themselves. And a majority of these issues crop up from that aspect that you bring on board.
It's not because of the system. You've got to get the right people.
All right.
The people,
winner takes it all. Winner takes it all. Winner takes it all is also an issue that, of course, is within the presidential system.
We talked about that during the Kibra by-election.
Yes.
Isn't Babu Owino a member of parliament?
Yes.
He
is he in remand now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So can you imagine 100 Babu Owinos determining in parliament the course of this nation?
I mean,
let's take a break.
talking about that, because there's a talk about parliament. Let's see the
go from
break.
the frying pan into the fire.
Okay,
let's
after
take
the
a
break
break.
here on the program.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. You are into the second segment and final here of the program. And before we take a look at the cartoon edition of the Daily Nation, from the Sunday edition to today, Monday, and equally take stock of whether parliamentary system of governance is the best way to go for the country, whether the problem is the structure of governance or the people who are in authority. We first of all hear from what the Kilifi Governor Jefferson Amason Kingi said in Mombasa County over the weekend during the BBI popularization campaign.
That there be an establishment of a federal system of government where there will be regional governments while retaining the county governments. Creation of an upper coast region comprising of Kilifi County, Lamu County, and Tana River counties. And creation of a lower coast region comprising of Taita Taveta County, Mombasa County, and Kwale County. Funding allocated for the regional governments and county governments should take up 70% of the national revenue. National government should pass a national policy on historical land injustices, through which a substantive standalone law on how to address historical land injustices will be enacted. Establishment of a regional land authority under the Constitution. This authority to have quasi-judicial powers to enable it to review land grants and to hear claims of adverse possession of land. G, pending the implementation of the above recommendations, all eviction court orders should be suspended.
Ukitaka muujiza usiende kanisa kesho. Tumeona muujiza hapa Mombasa leo. Na nataka hiyo muujiza iendelee kwa sababu ndugu yangu, rafiki yangu Murkomens ameita Raila Amolo Odinga baba. Ameipata ama hajaipata? Sasa endelee mbele namna hiyo. Ya pili, mimi nataka nizungumze kwa ndugu yangu Murkomens. Huyu ana maarifa mengi sana. Nataka tujumuike, tumzungumze pamoja na hata yeye anajua ya kwamba baba ndiye alimweka kwa mambo hii ya devolution, na mimi nikaingiza maji kidogo, akaingia hapo. Kumbe utafanya kazi vizuri, na nasema ni kweli.
Nakupa useme.
Ni kweli, nilikuwa mtu ya mkono ya baba, ni kweli.
I want to say this to fellow Kenyans, and I'm saying this with all the seriousness. We want a proper conversation on what is in the BBI report. Kwa mambo ya governance, kuna mambo ya presidential system, hybrid ama parliamentary system. Kwa mambo ya devolution, tu mambo ya hela ngapi ziende katika counties, mambo ya ugatuzi. Na mimi naomba Oparanya tuwe na 45% not of the last audited accounts but of the current revenue. Ndio counties ipate pesa ya kutosha.
Governor Amason Kingi, Kilifi County, and the Senate Minority Leader, Senator James Orengo, speaking there. That was in Mombasa County on Saturday over the weekend. And before we get to the Ebo panel here on set, we take a look at the Sunday edition, the cartoon edition of the Daily Nation. And here is what we have on your screens. It's all about the BBI Act and the pointing of the finger by Raila Odinga for the direction offered rather to Moses Kuria and the Senate Majority Leader Kipchumba Murkomens. Moses Kuria, of course, is the Member of Parliament for Gatundu South constituency. An interpretation of how if you are not boarding this particular act, then you will be washed away by the floods and the tsunami. The clouds are gathering, it's about to rain, and this will be the only savior point if you are to stay alive. And if you can't get in that open black shaded door, then you will be swept away by the floods. Can we get Shadrach the second today's edition of the cartoon on the Daily Nation, which pertains still developments around the BBI and of course why it seems not an important one for Kenyans because it equally is an highlight of the developments, the sort of invasion rather. We have the locust invasion, we have the BBI invasion. Now the invasion of the BBI depicted in the chopper or the helicopters is how the leaders are touring across the country with regard to their attendance at the different rallies. The latest one happened in the port city of Mombasa, and then we have the wildebeest migration. The two top are perhaps a natural cause, but the beneath one is the human-made, where the leaders are attending, the BBI proponents are attending the BBI rallies across the country. So far it happened in Kisii for the Nyanza region, seconded by Kakamega County at the Buhungu Stadium last Saturday on the 18th, and it happened on last Saturday in Mombasa County, Port City 001. So we make sense of that, and Linda will take it up from there.
All right, and I think straight to the gentleman, you've all seen, of course, the cartoon edition, sort of rhetoric language in regards to what is happening in the country, but not rhetoric because then it's a reality on ground. And of course, equally paints a picture of how tough it's been for us as a people of Kenya. Yet we still are not focused on addressing that. So what do you make of the cartoon edition of today's Daily Nation, and equally that very last one that you can see right there, Wakili?
If you look at yesterday's cartoon,
The
Sunday Nation. It's like they are like depicting during the time of Noah,
which is biblical, which is equally highlighted in the Quran,
right? Equally highlighted in the Quran. Actually, it's like what Raila is telling you is this is the last chance.
Yeah.
Save yourself. It's gonna rain. It's either boarding or you're left in trouble.
Yeah.
But the one question you need to ask yourself is this. Looking at how Murkomens expressed himself and how he spoke, does that amount to defection? You need to ask yourself.
Well, some say it might have been strategic deployment for the DP William Ruto.
If you ask me, don't think that these people don't have a strategy. You know, equally Ruto is a mature politician. But as Murkomens was talking there, he was also somewhere else talking, and still stood on his ground that we do not need to waste taxpayers'
So
money.
who's fooling
right?
who right
So
now? Is
who
it them fooling the common mwananchi, or of course them fooling themselves? Because then also it's captured right here, and the question is, Ruto's team sent mixed signals on BBI as they joined Coast Rally. A lot of mixed signals. So, I mean, who should stay woke in this case?
The concern of Ruto is just one. Let us stop using taxpayers' money to spread politics which are not necessary.
A genuine concern
Because
when you see
a
them
genuine
joining the
concern
bandwagon?
Because what he says is this: I'm not opposed to BBI, right? Actually, he's not opposed to BBI, but he's saying, why do we have to spend all this money going around the country, yet you can just come and tell us, vote for the Constitution?
Why do you have to have
and
your
we'll just
allies then
vote?
coming to join in? Then that will be the
You know the
question.
reason why they did that? Because
feel like they want
people
to be part of the
started-
conversation?
People start, as in, whenever they went to the podium, they wanted to treat them as if they are on the other side.
Okay.
Which is not true. They were not on the other side, to be specific.
Yeah.
Or they were saying, let's not do these rallies, let's not politicize BBI. And as I explained to you last time again, all that Ruto wanted is that we do this through parliament.
Yeah.
And even when you do it through parliament, the root cause is still referendum, because we are talking of federal system, we are talking of changing the government and all that. And I can assure you today, Ayubu, the issue of federal system of government was discussed even during Lancaster.
Yeah.
In
1962.
Lancaster.
But the entire
And they could
process,
not
yes.
come to they could not still come to an agreement. How is BBI in public going to make the issue of the federal system now work?
Of course,
Is it going to be possible? Is it going to be possible? You know,
Which is
people
equally
need to-
historical,
Yes,
yep.
which is equally historical.
Yes, the killing of
Many of
Majimbo.
the things there that they have talked about during the rally, they are talking about agriculture. We don't need BBI for us to change the agriculture system or how we improve agriculture in our country, right? The issues of land. You know, we never had land commission, isn't it? It is the last constitution of 2010 that brought about the land commission. And we were sure now this is the last solution. Now we are still again looking for a
When there's
solution
this
for
social
land.
contract that entails everything.
Thank you very much.
Literally all our
Thank you
problems.
very much.
All right,
So
of
you
course.
think the BBI in public is going now to sort out those issues?
Okay,
Benji,
Benji.
and the process itself has been looked at as a process that has gone against the Constitution, against the rule of law as it stands today. You know, the coming in of the BBI and the entire process that is being conducted as it stands right now. So even when, of course, the DP's side, that is the Tanga side, would come on board to point fingers at the process of, you know, you going to the people and conducting all these rallies, is there a point, a ground where we can confidently stand and say that, you know, any process in regards to the BBI has taken the right course as of what is enshrined in the rule of law?
Wow. I don't know. I think that what is clear is that there's over-politicization of everything. I think the BBI is also like a decoy, you know, that it's a screen, and behind that screen is basically the ongoing war. I'm just reading the paper here and looking at quotations. The ongoing war between Deputy President Ruto, who is a former ally of former Prime Minister Raila. So that's one of the internecine wars that is ongoing, that will have to be concluded at some point. I have seen that during an Honorable Raila's interview last night, he was asked if he could work with Ruto. His simple answer is no. We also know that politicians lie a lot or are unprincipled. Maybe if the time came that Ruto was clearly a front runner and it was maybe had an imminent win, that could probably change as well. So that really what this does, Linda, is rather than unite the country and rather than build bridges, we actually have a situation now where bridges are breaking and divisions are deepening and suspicion is deepening as well. And I think that's why on the part of the president, you're seeing him approaching everything very cautiously, watching kind of from a distance, because, you know, the camps are spoiling for war.
Okay.
And the so-called Tanga, as Wakili mentioned, is led by a feisty and seasoned and able politician. And so they're not running scared. They actually walked into the alliance den in Mombasa. That tells you a lot. But what is there as far as solutions, Linda, is, I've said this often, there's no way we're going to get anything good coming out of this brand of politics. The problem in this country, Ayub, is only the way we do politics. The politics determines, policy determines how we look at this constitution, how we implement it. I'm looking here at reporting on this High Grand Falls, a big project that the president was bitterly complaining is being stopped by courts. You saw that during the
on Thursday,
launch on Thursday, yeah. But also what he's also not saying is that how there's a lot of looting in these big projects as well. And so you can see that these are the fruits of the kind of cynical politics that are contemptuous of Mwananchi, because the first thing that these politics presume is that the voter is foolish. That's the first thing. That voter ni mujinga. They are ignorant. And the first thing you go to them with is tribe. And then emotion. Devoid of logic. Devoid of knowledge. And then you garner power for power's sake. You garner power and tell your community, now we are in power. I saw something very disturbing the other day, a discussion on Twitter. The Honorable Ukuru Yatani at Treasury had picked a team of basically all Somalis. And so we, you know, the thing was raised and the names are there. Then he said, oh, you know, so the guys who are supporting him said, oh, but you know, Somalis were just catching up. So we will do this again and again. That is not the solution to anything. And it cannot be right if Wakili does it, or if Ukuru Yatani does it, or if I do it. You can never build a country in that way. So we are practicing a cynical and foolish kind of politics that then says that if I'm a Somali and now I'm Waziri and I've put in my people, so we are winning.
The mentality.
You see? But what are you really winning? Because those 26 people he appointed fly in helicopters and get salaries for themselves, their children, and their wives. It is not Moyale region as a whole. And so what we must start now retooling is introducing the thinking around meritocracy. So that I'm from one community, Mugambi is from another community, but if he's the best lawyer and we have a good working chemistry,
be given a job.
I give him the job and he must be loyal to the job. I mean, you cannot say my bodyguard, I'm Kamba, my bodyguard has to be a Kamba, the driver has to be Kamba, the secretary has to be Kamba, and another say, you know, this is...
But isn't it what they're saying BBI is coming to address? Regional inclusivity in what they would purport, and of course, special positions, you know, expansion of the executive.
But is it really addressing that when Orengo, such a senior advocate, is himself just a sycophant of his party leader? You know, what does that say about education? If you're just a sycophant in public, you know, and a court jester, that is, we must change.
Okay.
And BBI is not the change.
Wakili, I'll come to you. Benji says, Wakili, this is not the change, perhaps, that will do the radical surgery with regards to remedying the political problems in the country or undoing the damage done earlier. But when we have Orengo saying that we'll go for a referendum, and then that was before the Kisi coming together, in Kakamega they still voiced the same opinion, and in Mombasa it was Murkomens who alluded and okayed, saying that it is inevitable at the end of the day. Is this perhaps the form of governance perhaps might be in place, say, that will address our particular problems that have been deviling this country ever since 2007, when we have been disputing the elections ever since, because we had the ugly spectre, we had the 2013 uncertain times. In 2017, the Supreme Court nullified the president's re-election. Is this the antidote to the current political problems in the country?
The answer is no. The answer is no, because as we've said again, what is going to change that has not been there? I'm sorry to say that if you look at the BBI, these are things that have been discussed even on previous occasions, right? And until the day that we are able to follow this constitution to the letter and implement it and have leaders with integrity, all those issues are just being said to be used for political purposes. Because if you look at it, look at Orengo. It's already talking about Murkomens calling Raila Baba. Excuse me. So is it about Baba or is it about changing the constitution? You saw what Amason Kingi was saying. Well, I'm trying to imagine that those were his views that were supposed to be viewed before the committee and not in that podium at the rally. And you've also seen what the COG chairman was talking about. Yeah? That now, tutapata pahali ya kuenda. After the, if the BBI comes into power, there will be so many seats spread out. Kwanza ulisikia vizuri sana Kingi akisema there are 9. And at least we will be part of that Nile, all right? So what they're trying to look for themselves is, where do we go next? I'm now a governor in my second term. I have nowhere else to go.
A picture of selfish
because
political
leadership
ambition.
is holiday.
Okay.
Because leadership is fun. Because leadership is superstardom.
Yes.
Because
So
the
this
concern is that the people who gathered at the Mamangina Water Drive, unemployed, they at the point
That's
they
why
enjoy
they
the
were
mammoth
there.
of crowd, unemployed, agriculture is collapsing, manufacturing
We
is
have to fix this
dwindling,
country.
and generally there is need for an overhaul of what even the president has pledged in the Big Four agenda, which seem not getting the needed attention, which is supposed to be adequate.
So let me throw to you a challenge that shows you how deep the problem in this country is, Ayub. So Kobe Bryant, who died last night, is a retired NBA player at 41 years old. How much do you think, I'm reading the reporting here, and of course I follow stuff like this internationally, how much do you think he earns a monthly salary?
And annually, it's about $25 million.
Oh, I see. So you know the answer.
Yep.
So he earns a month, Kenya shillings, 200 million.
That's about 250 million.
Yes.
250 million Kenya shillings is his monthly salary at 41 years old as retired, because he lives in a country of opportunity. He gets these endorsements from Nike, from Coke, from different retailers. You're busy, you're doing camps, you're doing training. He's actually flying his own helicopter. In Kenya, the kind of guys who earn and spend this kind of money are only politicians. So for them, politics and government is not about leadership. It's about being a superstar. It's about big money. And where do they get the big money? They rob the jobless guy you're talking about, who is standing on Mamangina Drive the whole afternoon, gazing at them coming in cars. Most of those people don't even ride bicycles. They're just gazing at cars coming and looking at people dancing, etc. And then it's all over.
The society has glorified that, because imagine when you get into power today and you exit a poor person, imagine how much the society will point fingers at you.
Yeah, they think you're extremely stupid.
Yes.
And so we've got a very deep problem here, which is why, and I'm not here to market anyone or support anyone, it's why a lot of the things Miguna is saying resonate with a lot of people, because it's like a moment of truth. How do you change a country where, I mean, someone like Amason Kingi is only known for building the governor's mansion in the first year in office for 300 million shillings. Can you tell me one thing Amason Kingi has done?
I'm buying a shirt worth 80,000.
Can you tell me another thing Amason Kingi
I
has
haven't
done?
heard of any other.
These are not leaders.
Unfortunately.
And rather than hide in shame, Amason Kingi, after failing in Kilifi, after presiding over the world's grindiest poverty, is now trying to craft a formula to bring himself and his ilk of failed governors back into power. How can people like that share a podium with Raila if he's a leader? You see, this is how it's so easy to burst the bubble of pretenders to the throne. How can those be your lieutenants? Where are you taking the country? Where are you taking the people? Coast region have been, you know, marginalized and oppressed, if you so speak, for a long time. And the only answer they have is like, oh, you know, we voted for Raila, but he has never been in power. And now he's trying to be in power at 80 years old. And then with this kind of route. I'm sorry, but this is not a solution.
Okay, well, Wakili, if all said and done, we have the extent with which the political class has damaged its reputation with regards to now making the country look like a dodgy place where dodgy businesses and dodgy deals are done. And for Kenyans, where is the point of pause here to reflect back and make the right decision at the ballot? Because at the end of the day here, the person in Mombasa, in Kakamega, in Kisii, in Meru, in Mandera, in Muranga, and in Nairobi will face the same particular problems, which is universal and cuts across. And for the politicians, they will be at the same level playing field politically at the end of the day. So how do we revolutionize the point at the ballot with which we need a paradigm shift to make Kenya a better place?
I think it's time that Kenyans say enough is enough. Let us elect leaders with integrity. Because I can tell you, it is that vote of yours that will determine whether this country is going to change or not. And if we all keep following up what politicians do every day, whatever they do is what we are following, then we will never move. We will remain going behind. We will never move. So the best thing that I can tell you, this is the right time to revolutionize in terms of through the media, through education to our fellow colleagues in the village who don't understand anything, because some of us do understand, and through also doing away with what we are calling corruption, because it is this money. You know, most of the people you saw in that podium, it is just a little amount of money that they were given. Maybe they were friends and bought, some of those guys, they knew that maybe they will be bought alcohol in the evening, most of them, or they will have something small to be given at the end of it all. Where is that money coming from? Because you take these politicians there, they go, they do whatever they do, they get that money through corrupt means and all that, and then they come back, they will remain there, they will remain it's telling us the same things every day. But I think it is time Kenyans said enough is enough. Use your vote wisely. Let us vote for the best leaders. And I think it is time we call upon intellectuals like us guys to ensure that we tell them on their face that no, this is enough. We are not going to accept this. We are not going to move to this direction. Rather than being sycophants, all right? If I see that Ayub is doing something wrong, I correct them and tell them I'm not going to follow you. And I think we have so many organizations and associations for the intellectuals. Let us use those forums. Let us use opportunities like this to tell the Kenyans that enough is enough. Let's put politics aside. Let's think about the economy, and let's grow our country to something else. You can see many countries have grown and left Kenya where it is many years ago. And if you joke, we're gonna have to see even countries like TZ coming ahead of us. Ahead of us. Yes.
And sometimes there's someone who keeps reminding me that, you know, we're not special in any way. Yeah. If South Sudan has gone the way it has gone, and all this Sudan and all these other countries, I mean, they all started at where we are. In the event that we mess up, of course, we get ourselves to a point where that is where it won't be good. We're talking about a revolution. A revolution is ripe, and a uprising is ripe, and all that. Do you suppose then there can be, you know, sort of a revolution that would get us to a point whereby we would say, you know, to address what you have mentioned on the question of power, where, of course, some of us look at power as a way of getting to get prestige and all that. Is there a way that we can transform this and make power expensive, ascending to power an expensive affair, so that, you know, before someone wishes to get into power, they think twice, because then it's not a place where you go to mint money. The Chinese system, one of the systems that is celebrated so much so across the world, and, you know, a situation whereby, of course, you had at some point in time, you know, Magufuli coming out in broad daylight saying that I get 400,000, you know, sort of in comparison, you know, as a president, you know, a president of a larger country than Kenya is. I mean, sounds like, you know, it's not a place where you, yes.
That's what he said.
Interesting.
Kenyan shillings, yes.
Yeah, I met a restaurant manager yesterday that in Kenya that earns 450,000 Kenyan shillings. So that tells you a lot. Yeah. It's a lot of business in Kenya as well. Fantastic economy that we're just destroying. So, Linda, it's already expensive. You talk about expensive nature of politics. It's already very expensive.
Expensive to the people who get there.
Yeah, exactly, yes, so because they spend a lot of money. Revolution, I have my own unique views about revolution, because I like looking at these things seriously, and I think some things cannot be discussed casually. The problem with the revolution is that you can actually easily get into more problems. And I'll tell you why. Africa has a unique problem of joblessness in the world. I mean, the highest levels of unemployment and poverty, the highest levels of slum dwelling, you can be sure, are easily to be found in Africa. So you've got millions of human beings that are living on under $1 a day.
That's 100 shillings.
Yes, that's 100 shillings that are oppressed, uneducated, frustrated, hungry. So just imagine then a revolution creates the environment of good and complete chaos. So that now it's about looting, pillaging, anarchy. That's very, very, very easy to do because many don't have anything to lose.
Which will open the way.
And don't have a stake.
Statelessness.
Yes, exactly.
Lawlessness.
Yeah, so that's the problem with revolution, because people throw around the word easily without looking at the orderly nature of how you would do a revolution, so to speak, which is why in places where revolutions have worked, you then have the middle class, lawyers, doctors coming to the street. They are very focused on what they're asking. It's not just an opportunity for chaos, so that now all of a sudden I can jump in a house which has a carpet, which I've never seen, which I've only dreamed of. You know, this is the pitfall of revolution. And so you can then go from the frying pan into the fire. Because then now you had problems with national debt and governance, etc. And now you have a problem where, you know, the hoi polloi have overrun the police, you have to invoke the army and all of this. So there are countries where the revolution really didn't work as well as it was supposed to. I think Egypt is one of them, even though they're able to
hijacked.
And you could imagine if all the arms in Africa's biggest military will end up to the hands of the people.
Exactly.
That
kind of thing.
Many analysts pointed out that it is even a blessing for Sisi to come in despite the dictatorship, human rights violations. That it was better to have some form of governance, even appreciated by Washington and London.
Than just citizens overrunning and taking arms into their own hands, okay? So I know this is a little unpopular to especially the activists and the radicals, you know, because they just want revolution, but they don't look at the dynamics and the inner details of what that would look like. So therefore, what is needed, Wakili, is a political revolution. A revolution
at the ballot.
That brings in a completely different crop of human beings, of Kenyans. They're there, they're not many. That is the product of a complete paradigm shift in how we conduct the business of the people, in how we define leadership, in how we look at public service. Those conversations began under President Kibaki. Ironically, those conversations have been furthered by Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta because he's a very eloquent gentleman. The problem is the action and the track record of the president against what he says. You can't outsmart
contradictory.
Uhuru. Yeah, it's contradictory. But you can't outsmart him on, I think you saw him at the church yesterday.
Yes.
You know, just several things. Uhuru is very articulate. So you explained, for example, the importance of using your talents as God-given in Scripture. You know, to these archbishops, you're given 2 talents, and then you came back and brought 4 talents. And that's very, very important. He talked about the way to serve God is to serve mankind, particularly those under you.
Yes.
And he's very sincere when he says that. You know, he is actually kind. If you know President Uhuru is kind, if you need something, you'll get it. He'll give it to you. So he has a core belief in this. And finally, as he was leaving, he said, Niweni radhi, tafadhali, I have a family matter, and it's not nice for the family to complain that, President, every time we call you, you don't come, you're too busy. You know, this job is not forever. Allow me to go to the family, at least I spend some, and people are just laughing. That's him. So you can't really beat him on the rhetoric and the intent. The problem is that he's presiding over a very corrupt regime. So that the scorecard...
His own regime.
Yeah, the scorecard looks terrible against what he said.
But the person is good.
But if he matched his words to the actions, President Uhuru would easily be the best president Kenya ever had. So as we talk about revolution, we must think. We must look at all. We must ponder about this, look at all these different things, and then make a decision as to the kind of leadership we want as Kenyans, what we want in a member of parliament, what we want in an MCA, what we want in a president. And these things of adding so many seats for individuals, deputy prime ministers, and whatnot, chief ministers, regional, that is really BS. And Kenyans should not go for that. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I wish everybody a good week.
Asante sana. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, my brother.
Benji Ndolo, senior political analyst for that matter, and Mugambi Laichena, advocate of the High Court. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for the great insights. And of course, thank you so much, Ayub, also, for taking us through, and me too. And equally, most importantly, you back at home for keeping us company and equally taking part of this discussion. It was great having you. We call it a day from here. And of course, we look forward to see you again tomorrow, same time, same place, even as we continue discussing issues that are of importance to the common mwananchi right here. And of course, looking at or taking an eye at the global, of course, picture on what exactly is playing. All this on the state of affairs. See you again tomorrow, same time, same place. My name is Linda Lela Ayub.
I'm Ayub Abdikadir Abdi. Up next is Winnie Lubembe in about an hour's time with my doctor. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Good morning.